Good evening. It's Cutter. We have a very special Cutter list. It's not a top 10 list because it's so close to Halloween. I decided to take it upon myself to do an ode to the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. In this episode, I look back at some of the segments from the Simpsons Halloween Treehouse of Horror thing. It's not ranked, it's just by chronological order. Okay? Got that? Here we go. Treehouse of Horror 1, 1990. The first story ever was the one when the Simpsons get a house out in the burbs and Lisa thinks it's evil and Marge tries to talk Homer out of staying at the house but move back to Springfield. Homer says nothing at all. So anyway, the house possesses Bart, Maggie, Lisa, and Homer to try to kill each other. Bart asks if the house was his conscience, and he faked it. So they all went with butcher knives, including Homer, although we never get to see the house talking to Homer. Maybe Homer was trying to kill Bart, Lisa, and the family. And we see Marge with a knife, but that's to make a sandwich. So the house, after Marge wants to leave, decides to tell Marge off. And it kind of works, but Marge decides, we'll stay here, and you can't make us. And the house decides to disintegrate rather than living with the Simpsons. The second story is the one when they get abducted by Kay and Cordos for the first time. Lisa and her neutralism and her skepticism finds out that the aliens were trying to cook Homer and the rest. Kane tells Homer, "Your wife is quite a dish." So basically, the fact of the matter is that it's amazing what you could think. But let us just say that Lisa, when she finds the books, a lot of space dust. This is how to cook for 40 humans. And because of the mistrust of the Simpsons, Kane and Cordos decided to dump them off in Springfield, whereas they could have been made as kings. Lisa still says, there were monsters on that ship, and truly we were. But Marge tells Lisa, that's what you get for being a smart aleck. The third story was the one when Homer and Bart act out the Edgar Allan Poe book, The Raven. And of course Bart doesn't like it because it's not scary enough. But Lisa says it's like Friday the 13th because time has made it less scary. Because when The Raven was released in the 1800s, it was very scary. So basically, it's scary now, but it'll disintegrate later. It's like the Saw movies. Alright, time for number 2, the first installment. Well, of course, the backstory was that the Simpsons were eating mad candy, and Lisa's nightmare sees the Simpsons go to Morocco, which Homer mistakes for Monaco, talking about Princess Grace. So anyway, Homer gets a monkey paw that makes wishes for 4 wishes. In the Simpsons canon, there are 4 fingers on a hand, not 5. Well, of course, 4 fingers on the thumb, but who's counting? So anyway, Maggie makes a wish. She gets a limo with a nice new Suver, but that's what it is. It's just a Suver for Maggie. Bart decides to make a wish, saying the Simpsons are rich and famous, but they get on everyone's nerves, including Helen Lovejoy, when Bart appears in a print ad for "Get a mammogram, ma'am." Oh, and I forgot to say Homer was actually stopped by Moroccan customs because of stealing a lot of stuff, but only had to pay $2 American. Lisa decides to pray for world peace, and it works out fine. However, Katie and Cordos realize that now Earth is weak against them, and everyone complains that the Simpsons are just ruining the Earth. So anyway, Homer makes a wish, but it's for a turkey sandwich. You gotta just wish the aliens away. And then he throws with the monkey paw straight at Flanders. Flanders makes a couple of wishes that the Earth gets back to normal and beats up on the aliens. And Flanders gets a new house. Homer groans and says, I wish I hadn't done that. Of course, going in Flanders' direction. Well, and then the second storyline was Bart's dream after eating too much candy. And it was that Bart could make anyone disappear. They all had to think happy thoughts. Bart gets to rule Springfield. Bo makes some kind of strange prank call. Everyone must laugh at his jokes. Bart then turns Homer into a jack-in-the-box. And Dr. Monroe says that Homer should spend more time with Bart. Maybe Bart will lighten up. And Bart decides to turn Homer back to normal. Homer says, I love you, son, to Bart and kisses him. And Bart wakes up from that, knowing his demented mind that, Homer and why. He would be scared of that. Homer saying, I love you. Anyway, Homer's dream had him crushed in an accident and then his head put on Mr. Burns' head. Actually, no, wait. The storyline was that they were going to switch Homer's brain to put into Burns' robot, Frankenstein, but of course that didn't work out. So Homer's head was placed on top of Burns, and they were two heads. Sorry about that. Hold on. Much better. Anyways, Treehouse of Horror 3. Oh yeah. The backstory was that the Simpsons were hosting a Halloween party. Homer was Julius Caesar, but his bedsheet got hit by a nail and reveals him in his underwear. And then we see Martin as a fairy. Is that telling us something? Nelson punching him in the gut. Good for you, Nelson. Bart was dressed up by the guy Alex from A Clockwork Orange. And I know that last year's Simpsons Treehouse of Horror had the story about Clockwork Orange. And Stanley Kubrick would not let it go because he wanted perfectionism. One tiny mistake, he made everyone work all over again. So anyway, Marge tries to make a scary story out of some food products, but of course Homer eats them. Lisa tells the story about Bart getting Bart's birthday. Bart gets money from Grandpa, who says, I don't need it, I don't deserve it, but if they miss one payment, I raise hell. So Homer, of course, forgets about Bart's birthday and decides to go to an occult store and buys him a Krusty doll. And then a Frogurt, which turns out to be tainted. So Homer gives Bart the present, but slams the door in Milhouse's face while Milhouse is playing pins and Nucky. That Milhouse is so unlucky. He's like the Charlie Brown of The Simpsons. So Bart likes his Krusty doll. It's a talking Krusty doll. Grandpa warns that it's evil, but Marge scoffs and says, Grandpa, you say that about all your presents. And Grandpa says, I just want the attention. So after all that, the talking Krusty doll decides to try to kill Homer, but to Bart, Lisa, and Marge's eyes, he's not doing anything. Homer sings the song, and I will be using my normal voice for obvious reasons. My baloney has a first name, it's Homer. My baloney has a second name, it's Homer. And Krusty decides to try to harpoon him. And Homer's nude body goes in front of Patty and Selma, and Patty says, there goes the last thread of my heterosexuality. Are you trying to tell us something, Patty? We find out later that she's gay in the Simpsons episode about gay marriage. And of course I hated the couch gag because they were running on the Stanley Cup in the season that the cup wasn't awarded. Fuck you, Simpsons. Oh, anyway. It was a time of needy. Homer takes Krusty to the bottomless pit and drops him in, whereas a mobster tries to dump a fake body, and a guy wants to put nude photos of Whoopi Goldberg to rest, but the bottomless pit wouldn't take the photos. So anyway, Krusty, I don't know how, but he escapes from the bottomless pit and starts trying to drown Homer in the dog's water dish. Marge finally realizes Homer was right all along, and then the doll repairman sees a switch on the back from evil to good, and Homer makes Krusty his slave. So anyway, next storyline is that Grandpa tells a story about King Homer. It's kind of like King Kong. Marge, of course, wants to be part of a sea voyage that Burns put in the paper. Burns asks Smithers what his thought is, and Smithers says, women and seamen don't mix. Of course, he means seamen, S-E-A space M-E-N, not S-E-M-E-N. Damn it, I just said it. Anyway, so anyway, everyone is wondering where they're going, like Lady Carl and Charlie. Instead of Candy Apple Island, they're going to Ape Island, Big Ape Island. And people are chanting, Homer, Homer, Homer. So anyway, Birds tells Marge that she has to come too because they need the bait. And then he comes up by saying, baiting beauty. And then of course, Homer, Homer. And then the chief recognizes Marge's blue hair and says, Mosita Tupu, Mosita Tupu. If you're a New England Patriots fan like me, you know he was a Samoan fullback from the U of Southern California. So anyway, Birds tells the lion, says that we shouldn't sacrifice the blue-haired woman, but they do. Homer fights this Godzilla-like creature or this dinosaur, gets bit on the hand when the gong to summon King Homer happens. Do. So anyway, he takes spinning with Marge. Burns manages to finally get his monster thanks to Smithers, but Smithers gets eaten by King Homer anyway. So anyway, King Homer gets mad with all the flash bulbs and destroys the Broadway play and even eats Shirley Temple. Ugh. So anyway, King Homer tries to take Marge up to on the tallest building in Springfield, but of course he's weak because Marge tells him, shouldn't eat so many people, you should eat more veggies, you'll have more energy. And then King Homer plummets only 10 to 20 feet, showing how fat he is. Jeez. How obese is Homer? Really obese. So anyway, Marge decides to wed King Homer in a ceremony, and Homer eats her father. And that, of course, explains that we don't know what happened to Marge's father till this season when we learned he did die of lung cancer. And, of course, it was covered up because Mrs. Bouvier, because A, lung cancer was taboo back in the day of the 70s and 80s, and B, because she wanted Patty and Selma to keep smoking to be cool. I'm surprised she didn't try it with Marge. As is, Treehouse of Horror 4 starts with... I'm sorry, I'm just trying to remember everything off the top of my head. I know there was a storyline. Was it the one with Homer and the donut? Oh yeah, it was the one with Homer and the donut. Treehouse of Horror number 4 was in 1994. And talking about paintings, the first painting was of the devil. And the thing was, Homer gets the devil. Homer tries to eat donuts, but of course he's dreaming about donuts, and then he needs an emergency donut, so he calls up the devil, saying, "I sold my soul for a donut," and the devil was the headliners. Always the one you least suspect. So anyway, what else is new? So anyway, he gives Homer the donut. However, Homer realizes that he can't eat the whole donut. If he doesn't eat the whole donut, the devil can't get his soul. So Homer finishes it, except for one big bite. But then Homer, thanks to his hunger pains in the middle of the night, eats it and says, forbidden donut. So anyway, Homer must go to hell for a few days while there be a trial. So anyway, Homer is fed donuts till he explodes, but he didn't explode. So anyway, the trial has Lionel Hutz for Homer and the devil, of course, using it. So anyway, they make a deal. Although Hutz blew his chance because he said, we make a deal, we should get the bathroom breaks. But the devil Flanders decides to make the jury. John Wilkes Booth. What is that girl with the hatchet? Lizzie Borden. Benedict Arnold. Blackbeard the pirate, and the entire starting lineup of the 1976 Philadelphia Flyers. Of course, to avoid copyright issues, they were put in blue uniforms, not white, not orange. And I think the lineup was Brady Perron, Bobby Clark, Ed Van Imp, Barry Ashby. No, wait, can't be Barry Ashby. Joe Watson, Bill Barber, and also either Rick McLeish or Reggie Leach. I don't know. But anyway, long story short, it seems like Lionel Hutz has lost the case and then he abandons himself. However, March. Oh yeah, Richard Nixon was part of the jury, even though he's not dead at the time. So anyway, March shows the jury a picture of their wedding day when in the hospital because Homer ate the whole wedding cake, and then on the back it says, "I pledge my soul to Marge forever," and that turns the case over. Homer's head is now turned into a gigantic donut as punishment for messing with the devil. And Chief Wiggum and the cops are waiting for him outside to dunk the donuts on Homer's head. Next was the story of Bart and the demon on the bus. It's kind of like the Twilight Zone episode where William Shatner sees a goblin on the wing of the plane, but no one else sees it. So anyway, long story short, I hated that. Well, Skinner was placed on the bus because his mother took away his car keys for talking to a girl. Of course, this was the time of The Simpsons, which Skinner was a complete weenie. And there was also a bell tower on top of Springfield Elementary for some reason. So anyway, Bart keeps thinking of a gremlin. It was actually proven that the gremlin existed, but Skinner would not budge on Bart's toe, and it forces Bart to share a seat with the German exchange student, Uter. But anyway, Bart gets committed to a mental hospital, even though he was right. So anyway, that's all there was to that one. And then the last sequence was about vampires. It could have been about dogs playing poker, but they thought it was too scary. I don't know why. So anyway, talking about the blood donor drive and how Burns took it over and has blood trickling down his mouth. And then he makes an announcement saying fresh blood when he invites the Simpsons to Pennsylvania, not Transylvania. So anyway, Lisa, the skeptic, finds out about Burns and his vampire ways. And then Burns, as a vampire, bites Bart. And of course, Homer laughs at Lisa, saying, "Oh, yeah, Bart's a vampire. Beer kills brain cells." Now, let's go back to that place. So anyway, Bart as a vampire has fun. He bites all his friends. However, Homer finally believes that Bart's a vampire. And Grandpa wants to put a stake in him. And then Marge says, "How did you know Bart was a vampire?" Grandpa says, "He's a vampire," and runs. I think he wanted to kill Bart. Honestly, that's a good idea. So anyway, they all become vampires, except for Lisa. It was actually the head vampire was not Burns, it was Marge. And of course, Homer, you gotta remember, tried to put a stake through his heart, but put a stake right through Burns' crotch. Ew! So anyway, that's all for this part. There will be another Treehouse of Horror remembrance. I am on a time limit with each video. I don't know why, but I'll stretch it out somehow. So anyway, I gotta rest my voice for obvious reasons, and I'll be back with the flashlight soon enough. Now we go to Treehouse of Horror number 5. And in this, we started off with The Shining. Of course, it parodies The Shining. And in The Shining, Homer and the family get to take care of Burns' winter residence, but of course Burns knows it's haunted and all that. And Homer goes insane because he learns that no TV and no beer make Homer go crazy. So he goes crazy. Moe and the other goblins tell him, "You must kill your family to get inner peace, and maybe you'll get your TV in your ear." So Homer decides to try to chop through the doors like Jack Nicholson's character and says, "Here's Johnny." Nope. David Letterman. Nope. And then he does something with 60 minutes and scares them all around. So anyway, Marge decides to hit him over the head with the bat and puts him down in the cellar, the food cellar. Homer eats it, but Moe says, "We're not happy with it. We've got to have you kill your family." Talk, eating. So anyway, Lisa finds a small portable TV and kills Homer's urge to kill. Nice. The second, Willie tries to come to Bart's rescue because Bart uses his shin to alert Willie. Family's in trouble. Nope, Homer gets him. There's a common theme. The second one is when Homer has to fix the toaster, and then he ends up going back in time with his toaster, and then he learns Grandpa told him at the wedding, if you ever go back in time, don't do anything. Don't step on anything because it could affect anything in the future. So Homer decides to, he sees a bug, says, "Stupid bug, you go squish now." Wrong. And I can't remember a lot of what happened because I don't know. I know for sure that one storyline had Bart and Lisa as giants and squishing Homer. Another one had like the family well behaved, his sisters-in-law dead, and her car. And then he asked for a donut, but Marge says that we don't have donuts. It ends up being turned out if Homer stayed along, he would learn that donuts are a substitute for rain. But anyway, Maggie kills Groundskeeper Willie. So Homer goes back to the present and learns that the family has giant bug tongues. Close enough. So, and then the third one was when budgetary cuts forced lunch lady Doris to make some unhealthy food choices. So then Principal Skinner is worried because there are too many kids in detention. And talks to Lady Doris, says there would be a nice solution to both our problems. So when Jimbo does something bad in detention, he gets hit by Skinner. Says you'll have to volunteer with lunch lady Doris. Bite me, Skinner. Oh yes, yes indeed. So anyway, lunch lady Doris chops Jimbo up and makes him into food. Sloppy Jimbos. Uter seems to say no sloppy Jimbos, but the school score's not saying for obvious reasons. So anyway, Uter gets sent to detention because he was having seconds. So anyway, then comes Uter Bras and they decide to have an Oktoberfest. And of course Skinner confesses that there's a little Uter in all of us, which obviously means that they slaughtered Uter. So anyway, it's not long before Bart and Lisa realize that they're going to slaughter children for food. So anyway, they try to tell Marge it, but Marge tells them, you should just tell the teachers, don't eat me. And then after all that, all the teachers are just fight, and there's only one class of students left. Bart, Lisa, Wendell, the one who pukes all the time, Millhouse, and a few other people. Ralph too, yeah. So anyway, Ender Krabappel, after sending Wendell to detention, reads a book, How to Cook Millhouse. So anyway, Bart, Lisa, and Millhouse go through everything. Go through a gauntlet. Groundskeeper Willie's ready to save him. Nope. Skinner puts a fork in his back. So anyway, Millhouse is put into a giant blender. He falls off. Bart says, someone will save the Simpsons kids. And then, nope, they're both going to go down to the drain. But it's actually a dream. But unfortunately, the Simpsons get turned inside out because of an inside out fog. Kind of creepy in the end. Treehouse of Horror 6 starts off with the attack of the 54 billboards when Homer decides to get revenge after learning that the colossal donut from Lord Ladd was not really that colossal, just like Lord Ladd holding the plastic donut. So Homer decides to destroy it to get the donut, and that leads Lord Ladd and the rest of the advertising people to rise amok in Springfield, including a giant Camp Brockman who destroys the real Camp Brockman. Bart actually gets a 50-foot devil to squash the school. Smart move, I guess. So anyway, Lorelai comes to collect his donut. Homer sends him on a wild goose chase. Doesn't work. Marge then forces Homer to give back the donut. It might stop the destruction. And it does for 5 seconds, and then he uses the donut for destruction. And Homer says, "Aren't you tired of being wrong all the time?" Not really. So anyway, Lisa finds out from the shoe and print of Lorelai that the advertising agency, and it tells Lisa that once you stop paying attention to the town and everything, to the monsters, they'll stop. But of course, it's advertising things, they always recognize them. So anyway, Paul Anka, Canadian, decides to sing a song with Lisa saying, "Just don't look, just don't look." So they don't look and everyone falls dead. However, Homer refuses not to look at Lorelai, who says his donuts are now with sprinkles. But once they pry Homer away, Lorelai dies and sends the giant donut rolling around. King and Cordels think that someone's coming so that they can hitchhike to Earth capital. Chestnut, it's a giant donut. Next up is the death of groundskeeper Willie in the second one. Groundskeeper Willie slices Bart across the chest in a dream, but it's actually real. Bart learns about that. So Bart talks to Lisa, and Lisa's hair got hit by hedge clippers of groundskeeper Willie, and a few other children come forward, and then Principal Skinner says there's nothing wrong with groundskeeper Willie. Now let's not talk about the elaborate cover-up. So anyway, we learned in Latin class that Krabappel says the worse you do, the more money we get for standardized testing. That's weird. So anyway, Martin, as always, finishes it in like 5 seconds, and in his dreams he gets strangled by Willie's Latino tongue, and of course he dies. And then Lunch Lady Doris, I guess, stumbling as the paramedic puts a sheet over Martin's head, but it gets caught on a nail, and then Martin's grotesque face is shown to all the fourth graders, and then Lunch Lady Doris puts him in the gang on room for some reason. So anyway, Bart and Lisa learn about groundskeeper Willie's demise from Marge, who said it even though they weren't asking for it. So Marge tells the story about how the school was debating several things, budgetary things, and Homer accidentally puts the heat up too high, and Willie gets set on fire and tries to get a fire extinguisher, but nothing works. He's forced to sit down and listen to Mr. Van Houten talk about how the school's menu should be printed up so that parents can see what the schools are serving and what not to serve at supper. So anyway, Willie decides to destroy the children in their dreams. Bart and Lisa try to stay up, but nothing doing. Bart decides to fall asleep and then force Willie to a final showdown, and then Lisa will wake him up if trouble occurs. So anyway, Bart thinks he's killed groundskeeper Willie after a while, and then decides to have his own dream. Him and Krusty winning the Super Bowl, Bart the Krusty Stalker. So anyway, Lisa wakes Bart up, but unfortunately Lisa fell asleep too. But thanks to Maggie and her pacifier, it blows up Willie, and the Simpson kids are safe. Nice. And the third one was a groundbreaking segment called Homer Cubed. Homer and the family are trying to hide from Patty and Selma and their vacation slides. That's a common theme. That's pa. So anyway, Homer decides to go behind the bookcase into the three-dimensional zone to avoid being caught by Patty and Selma. So he learns about other things. He talks to his family, and the first joke Patty and Selma says, after Homer says, "This is a place I've never been before," they said, "The shower." So anyway, Ned tries to do something, but says, like the lumber said to the tree, "I'm stumped." And then I think it was Patty said, "Seems like you disappeared into fine air." Homer then tries to go through a 3D plasma. Bart tries to save him. Homer goes crap, 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 and he lands into a decent world. the live action world. Turns off. Treehouse of Horror 7 started out with Bart learning he has an evil twin after hearing voices up in the attic. So him, Maggie, and Lisa tried to find out things, and then they find out that Homer made an autobiography that never sold any copies. So anyway, they find out that something was loose. Hugo was loose. And then Marge tells the story that Bart was a Siamese twin with Hugo, and Dr. Hibbert tells the story too. And that one twin was fighting each other, and then a routine pap smear test said that one of them was evil, so they had to separate them. So they gave Bart to Homer and Marge and needed to know what to do with Hugo. Too crazy for Boys Town and too much of a boy for Crazy Town. So they decided to lock him up in the attic and feed him fish heads once a week. And it saved their marriage. Bart then noticed that he had an evil scar on his torso. But then Bart, when left alone after the family decides to search for him, finds out that Hugo, who looks just like Bart but looking demented and actually have a meal of fish heads and water, decides to stitch them back up together. But Bart, of course, says, "You'll kill us." Hugo says, "No, I've been practicing. I made a pigeon rat." Unfortunately, the pigeon part made the rat crash, and the rat part trying to get in the hole made the pigeon bonk its head. So anyway, Dr. Hibbert saves Bart, but then learns that Hugo's scar is on the wrong side of his body. So Bart was the evil one after all, obviously. So anyway, they switch places. Hugo's now living with the Simpsons, and Bart must stay in the attic. So anyways, the second part was when Lisa decides to do a tooth, gets a tooth out and then pours cola on it, saying how bad cola can be for the tooth, saying scientists talk about smoking and Chinese food being bad for you. So anyway, Bart decides his own science fair project was that nerds conduct electricity. So with the electricity passed down from Bart to Lisa, Lisa then accidentally makes it a Renaissance part in a little city. And Bart, with his own electricity, decides to destroy the town by putting his finger in the cola thing. So anyway, Lisa wishes Bart would pay, so she goes down to the tiny town and they decide to figure something out. But Bart then decides to take the science project and make it his own, strangely enough winning the gift certificate. Lisa is pissed and forces her subjects to give her every whim in revenge. Next up was the one about the 96 presidential election. And in this presidential election, Homer is fishing but gets kidnapped by King and Cordos. And Bart says, "Take us to your leader," which was Clinton. But Homer also says that there's an election. It could be him or Bob Dole. So they decide to kidnap both Dole and Clinton and do a metamorphosis into their bodies. So anyway, Homer is forced to be bathed in rum because he knew what the others were doing, but of course no one would believe someone rummy. And Bart, of course, says that too. Both Bob Dole and Bill Clinton talk in monotone sentences and in weird talk, saying, "Your planet is doomed. Doomed!" Homer tries his best at a Springfield presidential debate to tell them they're aliens, but of course he fails. And then he finds the spaceship right by the fishing hole and lets Dole and Clinton out. And it was proven that King and Cordell's were Clinton and Dole. So anyway, the aliens force the people to vote for one of them because it's a two-party system. And Kang gets named president, and they have to build a death ray to destroy a planet. I've got to remember the 7th Treehouse of Horror one. Hang on one sec. Okay, there were... No, that was the 7th one. Fuck me. It's the 8th one I'm looking after. Is that the Fly versus... Oh, yes, it is. Yes, now I know what it is. Alright. So the 8th Treehouse of Horror starts off with Mayor Quimby making a comment about France. A controversial comment about France so badly that the French decide to bomb Springfield. And Homer, living in a bomb shelter, looking at bomb shelters, actually was in the bomb shelter when the bomb went off. So anyway, Homer ends up being the last person in Springfield and sees everything and dances in the nude to war. What is it good for at the Springfield church? And then these undead people like Chief Wiggum and Dr. Hibbert and all that chase him. And surprisingly, Bart, Lisa, and Marge and the rest are safe because the house had a lot of asbestos. And then they killed the zombies. Next up was the transportation device. Homer decides to use the transportation device and forbids Bart from using it. Bart cannot resist, and he merges the dog and cat together. One of the two bodies had the dog's head and the cat's head, same one, and of course, the second one had both their butts. And Bart says, "You can be Lisa's pet." So anyway, Bart decides to merge the fly with dangerous kind of consequences. They trade the fly head on Bart's body better than the fly of Bart. Bart convinces Lisa that it's him, and so they go to the transporter together, and Homer takes an axe, but to Bart, saying, "That thing cost me 35 cents, how dare you use it?" And the next one was the Easy Bake Coming segment, where we talked about Salem and the witch trials, and that Marge gets forced to come out as a witch, even though Bart wants Lisa to pay for being a witch. But anyway, Marge makes life difficult, talks to her witch sisters Patty and Selma, and they decide to try to eat people. Actually, they were going to try to take their shoes, but when they heard Maud Flanders talk about witches are going to try to eat their children, obviously they had a good idea. So they decide to take the children, but Maud and Ned decide to give them treats, and they're happy because now they can scare people for treats and all that. So that's the unofficial start of trick-or-treating, which is very nice indeed. Let's see, Treehouse of Horror 9. Oh, here we go. Treehouse of Horror 9 starts off with Homer getting a hair transplant from the executed Snake, but Snake's hair was controlling Homer, which is weird. That a hairpiece controlling Homer, and of course forcing Homer to kill Apu, Mo, and Bart, who witnessed Snake's third strike. And of course the hair starts to strangle Bart, but Homer then strangles Bart too, and of course the hairpiece gets shot to death. And the next one was Tiny Town, when Bart, Lisa, and Maggie were prohibited from watching the Itchy and Scratchy Halloween show, and then they go into Itchy and Scratchy Land, and then Itchy and Scratchy try to kill them, but Itchy and Scratchy get forced to be cat and mouse in the Simpsons universe, and Scratchy must be neutered. And then the third one was the one when we learned that Maggie is actually Kane's kid, because she strangely got pregnant by him, and then Jerry Springer tries to do it, but Maggie turns out to be a space monster. There'll be more Treehouse of Horror moments later on. And now is the third part of the Treehouse of Horror stunts. Next up is Treehouse of Horror 10. The first plotline was, "I Know What You Diddly Did," is when Homer, after he and his family got the sugar crisp, actually ended up running over Flanders, and Homer tried to make it in a way that he wouldn't get blamed for the incident, so he threw Ned off the roof and all that, and finally got Maud to believe he was dead without Homer's involvement. So anyway, Homer at the funeral said, "I won't forget Marge's face when she ran over. Oh, shut it. We're looking for the real killer." And a man should testify against his wife, and he starts winking. And then soon the whole town thinks that Marge killed Ned, even Homer pointing the finger at her. So anyway, It's revealed that Ned was actually a werewolf. That's amazing. So anyway, next was Desperately Seeking Cena. At Springfield Elementary, Milhouse gets poleaxed by Lisa because Milhouse is wearing a radioactive man costume, but Lisa says, I doubt the real radioactive man would wear a smock with his of himself. He would at Halloween. Lisa as Amelia Earhart and Bart as some kind of superhero. They all get shot. Bart and Lisa get shot by X-ray vision from the candy that Nelson put in the thing. So as is, Lisa is super strong, Bart is super stretched. So they did Stretch Boy and Clubber Girl. Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, they are called to a case in which Cena, or Lucy Lawless, of course, as she's known for, gets kidnapped by the Collector, aka Comic Book Guy. So Comic Book Guy kidnaps her and wants to make her his bride. And then Cena distracts Comic Book Guy and manages to destroy him. And Comic Book Guy decides to do some kind of death scene. Best death ever. Stretch Boy and Clubber Girl save Cena. And say, wait a minute, Cena can't fly. I told you, Cena, I'm not Cena, I'm Lucy Lawless. So next up is the story about the Y2K glitch, and that Homer destroyed humanity with his computer glitch. So anyway, anything with a computer chip in it would be useless. And then they find out, thanks to Krusty death from his pacemaker, that there was going to be a rocket sending the absolute best people to the moon and the rest. And then that's great. So people like Michelle Kwan, Michael Jordan, and even Mark McGuire, pre-steroid accusations, were on the flight. Lisa got to take somebody with her to the rocket, and she obviously chose Marge. And of course Maggie came with her because Maggie's a baby. So Bart and Homer find another rocket, and they find out with people like Courtney Love, Dan Quayle, Tanya Harding, and Al Sharpton, and Tom Arnold, and Rosie O'Donnell, that they're headed for the sun. So they decide to eject themselves and have their heads blown up in space, rather than deal with the rest. So anyway, that's that. Number 11 was not really that good. The three stories where Homer ends up dying of broccoli and must do one good deed, but St. Peter does not see Homer do his good deed, and Homer is sent to hell. Bart and Lisa being like, this Bart and Lisa as Hansel and Gretel, and the Night of the Dolphin was when the Dolphins take over Springfield. So anyway, number 12 was Hex in the City, also a bad one. Hex in the City, when Homer gets hexed by a gypsy because he destroyed the gypsy's belongings, made Lisa into a horse, Bart into like rubberneck, like stretch dude, and Marge with fully hair and all that. So anyway, Homer manages to find a leprechaun. It marries the gypsy, and all is forgiven. But Bart committed suicide by drowning in the cereal. House of Wax was when Pierce Brosnan tries to kill Homer to marry Marge, and of course WizKids is like a parody of Harry Potter, and that, Burns was trying to destroy Lisa because she had all the power and enlist Bart's help. Bart, of course, decides to turn on Burns. Let's see. Oh yeah, pretty much after that, it just went downhill. 13 was sent in the clones when Homer has a magic hammock that makes multiple people, and then they do chores and all that, but all of a sudden kill Ned and all that, and has to destroy them. The Fright to Creep and Scare Arms was when Bart and Lisa tried to institute a no guns policy, but when he finds out that the William Bonning guy was dead, it was actually Billy the Kid, and everybody in the hole in the game, in the ground game, decides to destroy Springfield. And the Island of Dr. Hibbert, which every Springfield gets turned into an animal. Terrible. Number 14 was not a good one either. The first storyline was when Homer becomes the Grim Reaper after accidentally killing the Grim Reaper. He has to kill Marge, but he refuses, so he puts Patty's body to substitute for Marge, and including the Marge's hair. Second was Frankenstein, when Professor Frank resurrects his father, who destroys Springfield by taking body parts from a lot of people, including the spine of Principal Skinner. And Stop the World, I Want to Goof Up. The third one was when Barney Milhouse got a stopwatch that actually does stop time and all that. And Barney Milhouse were about to be killed by an angry mob after it was revealed they were doing the pranks. And then Barney Milhouse, for some reason, Barney Milhouse for some reason decided to goof off and have fun. And then they learned, and after that, they have to repair the watch. But it took them 15 years, which is amazing. Yeah. That was just terrible. It pretty much went downhill after 11. Number 15 was the Ned Zone, when Ned predicts the future, and that Homer would accidentally push a button to destroy Springfield. Right. Anyway, next was Four Beheadings and Funeral. That talked about a parody of 1890 and all that. And then The Belly of the Boss was the fantastic footage when Maggie actually ends up being the body of Burns. So as I said, it just went downhill after that. 16 was Artificial Intelligence. So anyway, Bart gets replaced by a robot. Bart picks up robot parts and then destroys Homer and David. I think Homer on purpose. And Survival of the Fattest was when Homer was in a survival game. But anyway, that was a brutal costume in your face when the citizens dress in Halloween costumes, but the witch gets mad and curses the town of Springfield, and they must do their own things. 17 was Married to the Blob, about Homer becoming a blob and all that. Gollum, when Bart releases a wooden golem on Springfield for stuff, and then The Day That Earth Looks Stupid, talking about 1938. And of course the Wild Worlds thing, and then of course that joke near the end about bombing Iraq or something. Let me just look it up. So anyway, the line was, they said that what went wrong as they planned the invasion to rid Earth of weapons of mass disintegration, like the war in Iraq. Let's see here. Yeah, it really went downhill after that. 18 was E.T. Go Home. You know what? Fuck this. That's my breaking point. After Treehouse of Horror 18, not really a lot of good sequences had happened. They kind of got stale. In very good time. Yeah, so that will be it. So, yeah. I'm quitting this thing because it's too long, and you know what? I don't want to lose all my voice. So that's Jeff Diamond saying so long, farewell, viewers, and good night. And there'll be other top 10s coming up soon enough.